Under due diligence, the question becomes, what is the length of the due diligence period? Well, in true attorney fashion, I'm going to answer that depends. Well, what does it depend on? Well, one thing it depends on is the condition of the house. If the house is in really good condition, you have a seller's disclosure that's clean, doesn't show any major issues, then possibly the buyer would not need as much time to determine what he or she wants to do. However, if the house is in really bad shape, then there could be some latent defects that would give the buyer some concerns. Another issue would be competition in the market. It's just the reality. If competition is tough, then the buyer is possibly going to have to make some decisions based on incomplete information and not be able to do all the investigations that he or she would like to do. But more practically, the first thing you need to ask yourself is how long will it take the buyer to get to the inspections needed? If there's an inspector that could go out in a day, 2 days, that's a different issue. If they're backed up and it would take 7 days, then that would be something to take into consideration. Besides inspections, are there other things that the buyers want to investigate? If so, how long will those investigations take? Then once those investigations and everything's done, then the buyer would have to give the seller time to respond. If the buyer is going to present either amended contract with some kind of price concession, or if they're going to present a Form 525 repair addendum and ask for certain repairs to be made, then the seller is going to have time to evaluate those requests and respond. So we built in time for the seller to respond. Now, as we know, the repair request has an expiration date on it, so you would need to limit the time that the seller has to respond, but it's only fair to give he or she enough time to respond. Then the buyer needs time to evaluate the response from the seller. Once the seller says, I will do this, or I'll do that, or I'm not doing anything, then there will need to be time for the buyer to determine what they want to do. Then after that, there would need to be built in time for the buyer to terminate if that is the buyer's decision. Because remember, that requires not only paying the termination fee, but delivering the notice of termination, both things. All of that needs to be done within the termination period. So it would be good to determine how long all of that will take, and also building in time to terminate should that be the buyer's decision.